necessarily tribal or regional.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television, and it's the newspaper review segment of the show this morning. We will begin, as usual, with the Daily Trust, and the major headline on the Daily Trust this morning is resting with the admonition from the former president. 2023, be responsible, put Nigeria first, Jonathan tells politicians. And the riders there read, urge citizens to vote right leader. Sambo wants issue-based campaign. Leaders have a lot to learn from IBB. That's according to Shomole and Akilu. You'll find the details of these stories on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And below the major headlines, we have, after pardon, Yame now darling of APC, PDP, SDP in Taraba. It appears these governors that were granted pardon returned fully into the political scene in their various states. We understand the same euphoria has escorted or trailed the release of the former Plateau State Governor, Jonah Jang. 3 soldiers, several bandits killed in Zamfara ambush. You'll find the details of that on page 4. UN to FG, increased education budget to 20%. You'll find the details of that on page 3. And we have this picture on the front page of a heavily bombed train after a Russian airstrike in Chaplin, Dnipropetrovsk region of Ukraine yesterday. Terrorist camps uncovered in Abuja suburb. That's on page 3, right below the name marks there. Police seal NNPP office in Maiduguri, detained senatorial candidate. Intrigue as Obasanjo meets Wike Obi in London. You'll find the details of this on page 25. And these are the major stories on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper.
The next newspaper we're going to be looking at is the Punch newspaper, and it carries this major headline on the front page. UK peace meetings, Atiku seeks Wike's support, Obasanjo pushes Obi's agenda. And it comes with riders here. Rivers Governor tables demands, wants Atiku's commitment in writing ahead of agreement. Wike's men favor alliance with Tinubu, say Obi lacks strong structure. And APC presidential aspirants may meet over Tinubu Shetima ticket. These are the riders supporting the major headline on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. Towards the bottom of the page, Fayose can't remain Ekiti PDP sole commander. That's the state publicity secretary. Ogun hookup girl sells baby for 600,000 naira. Details of that can be found on page 8. Lagos Ibadan traffic, motorists, passengers lament hellish experience. You can find that on page 5. Towards the top of the front page, power crisis, Disco's debt to Gencos hit 2 trillion naira. And gunmen attacked 527 local governments, thousands killed. That is according to a report. That is on page 10. Locally made COVID-19 vaccine for trial in November on page 8. And troops intercepted 3.7 billion naira worth of stolen crude oil, says the DHQ. Pressure government to fund universities, ASU tells parents. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning.
The Sun newspaper is up for review next, and we have as the major headline, suspense increase as Wike Obi meets Obasanjo in London. Rivers Governor Atiku also, Wike orders won't ditch party. This is coming from the PDP. And right beside the name marks there, we have court quashes about in local government elections. You'll find the details of that on page 27. We have a belt there right below the nameplate. Ted Fund sponsored COVID-19 vaccine ready for trials. You have the details of that on page 3 of the Sun newspaper this morning. Another headlines there read, ASU rejects parents' 10,000 naira offer, insist on continuation of strike. Orasanya's report, White Paper Committee submits report, recommends dialogue with National Assembly. FG must pay striking lecturers. This is coming from the NLC. NDDC, Niger Delta stakeholders warn against move to appoint another sole administrator. FG warns Nigeria against traveling to northern Cyprus. And the other headlines there read 2023, Tinubu target 4 PDP governors, senators, reps, and others. Nigeria may not attain SDG 4 on quality education, the United Nations warns. These are the major headlines on the front page of Daily Sun.
The next paper we're looking at is the Nigerian News Direct, which carries this major headline: Struggle to woo Wike. Atiku strikes meeting in London as Obi, Obasanjo, others meet Wike. And it has riders here. They say reconciliation moves in PDP. APC firm up as Tinubu sets to meet APC presidential aspirant. And Atiku warns supporters, party stakeholders against deriding Wike. Details of that can be found on page 2. Towards the bottom of the page there, NDLEA destroys illicit drugs worth 2 billion naira in Akwa Ibom. For details of that, turn to page 22. Hope rises as minister assures release of foreign airlines trapped $464 million. And that is on page 12 of the News Direct. Going towards the top of the front page, strike. Abiodun appeals to ASU FG to resolve impasse. And Discos TCN owe 2 trillion naira for power generation, says Ogaji. Woman sells her 3-week-old baby for 600,000 naira in Ogun. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct newspaper this morning.
And we move on to the Nigerian Tribune, which has been on the stand since 1949. And we have there as the major headline, Obasanjo, Obi, Wike, Makinde, Otom, others meet in London. Fintiri joins Atiku to meet Wike, others, as ex-VP calls for ceasefire among supporters. Tinubu, Amechi, Lawan to meet in Abuja. You find the details of this on page 2 of the Vanguard. You have there the pictures of the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, flagged by former governors and serving governors and members of the PDP right there in London yesterday. We have right above the name marks, hoodlums cause havoc in Lagos community, block Badagry Expressway. Woman sells 3-week-old baby for 600,000 in Ogun. Military eliminate 57 terrorists in 2 weeks, nabs 21 pipeline vandals. Oyo Princess seeks Makinde's clarification on Alaafin's stew. More than 20 Nigerian students killed over the years in northern Cyprus, and this is coming from the NITCOM boss, Abike Erewa. 17 marginal oil fields currently producing in Nigeria. This is according to NUPRIC. And below the pictures there, we have TED Fund-sponsored COVID-19 vaccine ready for clinical trials in November. Hope is not lost on Nigeria's steel sector. This is according to Naseni boss. Also insistent on 6-month salary arrears, selfish, insensitive. And this is coming from NANS. Not raising Nigerian education budget to 20% will imperil 2030 global goal. And this is coming from the United Nations. These are the major headlines on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
Next, we take a look at the Vanguard newspaper, which carries these major headlines, still sticking with the theme. 2023, Obasanjo, Obi, Wike, Duke, others meet in London, and carries a ton of riders here as Atiku finally meets Wike in London. Atiku to aides and associates stop deriding Wike, others. Tinubu's meeting with Rivers Governor, sign of desperation, says the ex-vice president's camp, and says reconciliation still in progress. We are yet to receive reconciliation committee report, says the Board of Trustees chair, on why Atiku, Board of Trustees members should pacify Wike, says Nazif, PDP chieftain. PDP crisis major albatross on Atiku's chances, say Adeyeye. Well, those are the riders supporting the major headline on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Going down the front page, military kills Sambisa Forest ISWAP commander Ozefa and 37 others. Details of that on page 3. How to revive Nigeria's steel industry, Naseni, executive vice chair, says that, and details of that can be found on page 6. Police take over NNPP secretariat in Borno, arrest party leader. And talking about security, gunmen kill police inspector in Lagos. Nigeria's low public investment in education sector will imperil 2030 global goal, UN warns. And 2023 campaign on issues, shun hate speech, Jonathan Sambo task candidates and parties. Now these are the major headlines on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
And moving on to the Nation's newspaper this morning, still staying with politics, Oshibajo, Lawa, Amechi, 19 others to unite for Tinubu. Ex-APC presidential aspirants to meet in Abuja next week. 2023, Atiku will be hold talk with UK in London. Obasanjo seeks support for LP candidate. UN urged Nigeria to raise education vote by 13%. And above the name marks, we have federal government to Nigerians avoid going to northern Cyprus. 8 suspects arrested in Abuja terrorist cell raid. Oyo begins distribution of 1 billion naira loans to entrepreneurs. And bank telcos compete for financial services, says the CBN. And we have there under the belt, police to deploy bomb sweepers. Akero Dolu upgrades monarchs. These are the major headlines on the front page of the Nation newspaper this morning.
Next, we take a look at this Nigerian newspaper, which carries this major headline in keeping with the theme. 2023, Atiku finally meets Wike in London. And rider here, attributed to an inside source. Nothing concluded. Discussion continues. And also, Obasanjo leads Obi to meet Rivers Governor Ekpeazu, Duke Autumn Makinde in the UK. And I'm still talking politics. APC or Simbajo Amechi, 20 other presidential aspirants to rally support for Tinubu. And talking security now, military eliminates 57 terrorists, top commanders in 2 weeks, destroys training depot in Lake Chad. Insecurity, 20 Nigerians killed in northern Cyprus. And finally, on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper, Italian man tests positive for COVID-19, monkeypox, and HIV. That is a triple threat. Well, those are the major headlines on the front page of the Nigeria newspaper this morning.
Well, we would now take a short breather. When we return, our analyst will be in the studio to serve us analysis from the front pages this morning. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Welcome back from that short break. It is now time for us to go into a deep analysis of what the front pages are telling us this morning. We have in the studio, as usual, and as always, a friend and brother, the editor, 21st Century Chronicle, Alhaji Nuruddin Abdullah. I have a colleague in Lagos who always say double Alhaji. In his case, I'm not sure whether to say Alhaji or multiple Alhaji or just Alhaji is enough. But it's a pleasure to have you join us in the studio this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Sandy.
Thank you. We have seen with most of the papers, the politics seem to be dominating, and not politics from the shores of Nigeria, but Nigeria politics from the diaspora, if you like. Almost all the papers seem to be, keeping tabs with what has moved now to London as the theater of our political activities. The Wike becoming the darling of all political parties, as it were. What do you make of all of this trip to London and the multiple images or optics that we seem to be getting from London?
Okay, I think there is nothing new per se, particularly if you go memory lane by monitoring the political situation. Wike is important not because he controls the largest votes, no. He is important because of the liquidity of the state he governs. Don't forget, in 2015, Rotimi Amechi was governor of Rivers. the political, the voting power of River State is not more than that of Katsina or even Kaduna. You understand? If you put it that way, but you know, it's a very rich state, and whether it is legitimate or not, politicians over the years use state resources to do elections. And that was why Amechi was among the 5 governors that defected from PDP to APC in 2013. And he contributed so much to APC's emergence, to even the campaign. And that was why he was even made the Director General of the APC Presidential Campaign Council in 2015. So it is not any different with what the power Wike is wielding now. So it is not surprising that, excuse me, that Atiku actually has to make peace with him. The same thing with Obasanjo, because apparently he went there for the Labour's candidate. Even Tinubu himself, he controls colossal resources, not votes. So that is it. And you know, we're in election year, money plays significant role in our electioneering campaigns and whatever. So that's why, you know, you'll see more, and that's why Wike is making all manner of statements. I mean, they have the big players have to tolerate him because of the bag of money he has, but not actually of any electoral law. You're talking about real vote. He's not the governor of Kano, for instance. He's not the governor of Lagos, or even Kaduna or Katsina. You understand? But he has the money.
So does his support or lack thereof actually translate into what will make the difference between victory and defeat for any of the candidates?
Sure, because you need money to do, at least, not to even bribe, to do the logistics. Mikey, you know, we have about 5 or 6 months to the election. So, you know, you have to be jetting around all over the country. There are states that you have to go more than once. You understand? So, election is a really, it's a money guzzler. So, you need the money bags to contribute. Yeah, they may have, Tinubu has, is a ruling party candidate. They have their ways and means, you know, government agencies may be instructed to support him. You understand? Atiku is an opposition candidate, so he needs Wike's money. That is one. And for him, not Wike to go to other opposition candidates. You understand? So he needs Wike with him for the money and maybe for the nuisance value, if you put it that way.
Interesting. Moving on to other stories now. One story that seemed to have made a number of the front pages would be the military uncovering terrorist cells in the suburbs of Abuja. We understand that some arrests were made somewhere around Daybreak. And we know this is coming on the heels of recent onslaught by the military around the camps of these terrorist cells within and around the Abuja metropolis. What do you make of this recent?
Equally, that is not new, Mr. Sunday, particularly if you look at the trend. If you look at the statements alone of the security service, particularly DSS, they have been mentioning this. It was this Ansaru or ISWAP. And for a very long time, we know that they are been around Niger, and Niger has a border with Abuja. The governor of Nasarawa State, you know, some months back, I think late last year, he was at the villa. He spoke to journalists saying that ISWAP has taken over my state. So with what happened in Kuje, with what happened in Buari, and even what happened in Madala, the Madalas, you don't need to be told that the ISWAP terrorists are now in bed with us. They're in Abuja. Because I don't think that the trek or the road bikes from Maiduguri to come and do the attack in the Buari general area. or to come and attack the Guards Brigade soldiers along Zuba Madalla area, or even to do that daring just a attack on the Kuje Correctional Facility. So they had been around. Maybe what is the security, and even in Nasarawa, for instance, between Kefi and Nasarawa, you see what is happening. They are not only bandits, you know. Don't forget, they have tracked a moving train, attacked it, stopped it, derailed it, killed people, took away so many in the last 5 months. So they understand the terrain in Abuja more than our securities agencies, apparently, from what we do, because they coordinate, they execute almost precision attacks. So they know the terrain very well. But thankfully, after, I think, the Buhari attack, there is what they call a G7, whatever, by the FCT administration. It's sort of a coordination between the neighboring states to secure the federal capital. So I think it's something that the Guards Brigade, you know, who lost so many agencies, that lost so many officers and men, you know, they have to be up and doing.
Recently, away from the FCT, recently we've heard reports of military exercises being carried out in some Bisa forests, parts of Zamfara and Kaduna, and some successes being recorded by the military. Do you think this is the military have woken up to their responsibility, or is this just another flash in the pan?
So we hope so, you know, that's what every Nigerian is hoping, that the danger is now looking at us, you know. Unlike before, it's now a reality. If you stay in Abuja and you think that you are immune from the jihadist insurgency, maybe in the northeast, or the banditry in the northwest, north central, then you're wrong. Look at what happened. After the Kuje attack, almost secondary schools in the capital city were shut down within 24 hours. You remember. The neighbor Nasarawa state did the same to avoid that mass abduction of students and what have you. We hope so, and we hope that they will devise new strategy. Don't forget as well, if you go to Kebbi, there are about almost 15 schools girls from the FGC Birnin Yauri who are with the terrorists for months. Some of them were even married up by the terrorist leaders, I want to feel. So the military need to change its style. Beyond, let's see it, beyond these numbers that are being banded every day. If you compute the numbers, you know, in the last 6 months alone, maybe from January this year to date, you know, they must have killed thousands of these terrorists. But why still they're effective? Why are they still relaxed and with capabilities of coordinating successful attacks? So this is what, you know, we should be ahead of them. So that's just my take. Let the military, we are praying that, let them be up and doing, let them stop banding figures, let's see realities. Because let's say, for instance, within the Abuja general area, if, for instance, the military is in control, then we say, okay, maybe in the next 6 months, we won't hear of anything. No abduction, no attack, no anything. Hopefully. Then we'll know, you know, that, the military has is now in control.
We hope that confidence level will continue to rise, given the efforts that we are seeing by the military around the Kaduna-Abuja axis. Moving on to another story that seemed to be some kind of melodrama. It's the way that suddenly the ex-convicts, the convicts, Jolly Yame, Reverend Jolly Yame, and his counterpart Joshua Darie from Plateau State have been received and suddenly have become the darling brides of almost all the parties. What do you make of our sense of propriety when you hear things like this?
When you're talking about sense of propriety or not, look at even the motive for their release, the timing. Everything was politically motivated. The moment Daria was released, he was even the Labour Party in Plateau State anointed him as the senatorial candidate of the party. You understand? So I think politicians are always like that. Even those in Abuja who masterminded their release have their own political motives. He who paid the piper dictates the tune. So now they have to go back to their various states and work for the ruling party. Apparently that's the motive. And again, some of them take Reverend Joel Nyami. I don't know whether he's still a reverend now. He has been there for 10 years as the governor of Taraba State. So he still has that some political clout. And Dari at the same time, Dari is a dog fighter, in Plateau politics. So, and immediately when he came, the governor had to, because I think they are from the same constituency with the governor, the senatorial constituency, and the governor is coming to the Senate.
Yeah.
The governor has to, in fact, the statement denying Darius' involvement in the senatorial contest was released by the media office of the governor. I was wondering, I said, why are you shaving somebody's head in his absence? Let Darius talk. So it seems that maybe, who knows, there will be substitution or what have you. So the whole thing is politically motivated because we are fighting corruption. And all these corruptions have been executed by people entrusted with public funds. And we have succeeded for the first time to arrest, prosecute, and successfully convict some of these public retired public officers. And now you just came from the blues on the Sunday and grant them amnesty. What are you saying?
The lawyers will tell you that they are Nigerians, and if you could give it to anybody, they are also qualified.
There are tons of other Nigerians as well who are there languishing in our prisons, and they haven't gotten that reprieve. And a lot of people actually believe that this is setting a bad precedent. It's actually
particularly for the anti-graft agencies. Because it simply means now, you can do whatever you want. Just get the right government at the right time. They will come. You will do all that. Look at it now. EFCC is investigating about 2 officials in the office of the Attorney General for alleged underhand dealings in granting this, in padding the list of this, who should be there, who should not be there, and what of it. So you see what I'm saying? Even the procedure of the amnesty has been riddled by fraud because people get money. That's what the anti-corruption agency is alleging. We don't know yet, but we hope that these officials will be. So, corruption upon corruption. And what is the EFCC saying now? And now you are prosecuting AGF, my kinsman, who's allegedly stole 100 billion plus. Okay, maybe let him come. Let him support Tinubu or Atiku. By the time he will come, it's okay, ask the Attorney General, put his name. He will be granted amnesty.
Unfortunately. Yesterday we heard from the former president who has become an ambassador of some sort for the country, calling or urging politicians to behave responsibly ahead of the 2023 elections, asking citizens to vote rightly and urging contestants to make this election issue-based. What do you make of his charges?
Okay, I think what Jonathan said is valid, And, in some instances you say, don't bother about the messenger, but look at the message. But in this case, both the message and the messenger are people of many Nigerians, and even people across the whole in high esteem for his role in 2015. The first
sitting president.
With the Laurent Gbagbo we had in Cote d'Ivoire, all these kind of things, he lost the election. even before that announcement, he considered. You know, look at the tense atmosphere. And, you know, he saved the situation. And he became a statesman. So we hope that people who are now, even though they are doing their second time, you know, will learn from him. And again, particularly the aspirants, they should learn from him. You can make impact, not necessarily by holding a political office. Some of the greatest politicians we have in the North, for instance, look at Mala Amine Kano. Mala Amine Kano, I think, won election only once to the House of Reps in Lagos at that time. He has never been president. But he has the most, I think, apart from the late Premier Ahmad Bello, he has, when you're talking about even political culture, civic culture, nobody can surpass that of Mala Amine Kano. He has never held any political office. Let them be like that. Look at Awolowo, for instance. You know, the Aoist movement in the Southwest. He mentored so many people politically without necessarily being the president of Nigeria. So let these people be like Jonathan now. Almost 8 years after he conceded. Now he can travel, he can talk without people looking at him, okay, you did this, you did this. You understand? He is now a statesman, an African or international statesman. So let's not look at it that it starts and ends with grabbing political power by all means. No. Let's do the Jonathan example.
Because a lot of people are actually of this opinion that most times when we talk about in elections, we focus on probably the wrong things, I should say. Maybe the procedure of the elections, talking about the Electoral Commission now, or even supporters of political parties, how the electors actually conduct themselves. But we shift attention away from the politicians themselves, who are the main and principal actors of the political process. Because if we are talking about their supporters take cues from them, and they should be more responsible. So if there's any sensitization that actually go on, it should be directed at the politicians themselves.
Yes, but you know, in terms of sensitization of the politicians, I think we have weak laws.
Okay.
I think that's my understanding. Vote buying is against the law. We all know. But tell me, has any politician been publicly prosecuted? They all engage in all sorts of these things. But unfortunately, the laws are so weak that, okay, Mr. Sunday wants to be the senatorial candidate of Kogi East or Kogi West, or whatever. And you know, he has a string governor that he has not a good time with. So he has to gather money from Lagos and whatever, and there is a law against that. That is one. And secondly, even we're talking about even making uncomplimentary statements that are capable of inciting the public. We saw it in the past. We saw it in 2011. We saw it in 2015, for instance. Understand? There are no laws for that. Nobody has ever been convicted because of that. And if the politicians will get their acts right, you know, political post-election violence will be drastically reduced. Look at the singular act of a sitting president who lost election, President Jonathan. The tension quickly died down because naturally these politicians, they have hawks around them. It is either you or the heaven let lose out of it. But if you do the Jonathans, if you go the Jonathan's way, you'll solve that problem. So it has a lot to do with the politicians. Because if you don't want to run a violence-based campaign, you can decide that. It is the individual. I'm going to campaign, for instance, I'm contesting election, let's say House of Reps, or whenever I'm moving out, I will assemble 500 thugs with all manner of weapons. Which example am I showing? Because during campaign, they don't go with security agencies. I saw it in Kano, I remember, with the presidential candidate. We slept in Kano during the campaign trail, and we are moving to Katsina. We passed some areas in Kano, before we know it, it was the opposition hue. People were throwing all manner of things. There are 2, 3 buses loaded with talks, with all manner of locals. They dropped. The police couldn't do anything. You know what I saw that time was terrible, because it's an alley like this, cars parked this way out of you. They just came, all the cars parked by the roadside, their windscreen out of you smashed.
Shattered. Unfortunately.
For almost half a mile, you understand? So it has a lot to do with the politician, the candidate. Take the Jonathan's issue. If Jonathan wanted violence, he would have, it's okay. Maybe you even say that no, arrest whatever and whatever, and tension will flare. But he considered, and he calmed the country. And now he's an elder statesman, not only in Nigeria, Africa, even internationally. So they should know that it is not all about being elected. There is even life after losing an election.
Absolutely, life after losing elections. We move on to one other issue we had seen in a couple of the papers this morning. There's the bizarre selling of a 6-month-old baby, is it? A 3-month-old baby for 600,000 naira. By a young lady who was assisted by another young lady that's coming from Ogun State, but on the axis to Lagos. And just this morning, we're also reading from the news how a 25-year-old battered his stepmother to death, and even had nearly made his father go the same route. And he was explaining to the policeman how he was provoked to do what he did. Where are we going with this kind of attitude coming from very young people?
So many factors are responsible for this irresponsible behavior. The parentage itself is suffering because of so many factors, so many influences. We are not whites, we are not Westerners, but we adopted that life hook, line, and sinker. In the US and so this mass school shooting, so they have guns. A boy of 7 will open the drawer and pick a gun of his belonging to his parent and put it inside his bag. I'll just go to school and start shooting out of him. Secondly, the morality. Nigeria, we are full of contradiction. We have more churches, more mosques than any other African country. We pray more than any other, even more than the Middle East, where the 2 religions, the Abrahamic religions, But morally, we are bankrupt. That is the more reason why you'll go to a mosque, for instance, you will see a clock, a wall clock of 3,000, but with a security features of 20,000 burglar. I remember I saw even a light bulb, the burglar. When I said, see, if you put it there, you leave it, they will pick it here, you understand? Or you go to a mosque. I just read not long ago that a prominent pastor's phone was stolen. Because, we are religious, but we are not moral. So that's it. And influence of some other cultures, for instance. While we saw in movies with internet penetration every now and then out of it. So, we have jettisoned even our clerics in the churches and the mosques, we have shifted away from this moral thing to other
prosperity.
Maybe if what churches, particularly the Pentecostal, talking about just how to get promotion or how to wear blazers, expensive suit, and what if you look at the religious, the other faith, from one political group, if you see the election out of it is not about value, It's about attacking one sect, in promoting one politician, So that's the basic problem. So the home, in socialization, that is the primary one, has been jettisoned. Nobody's in control. And that's what we're reaping. So the earlier, the better that we come back, because you can imagine. So that guy must be a drug addict. The one who, he must be a drug addict. He has been left alone when he needed his parent the most. He's on devices. He took onto drugs. And look at it. And look at, you know, when we read the story, it's a 3-week-old baby. You know, I say, my colleague was married woman, I say, if men do that, it's understandable. But a woman held that baby for 9 months, and to just, something is equally wrong. She may be under the influence of something. I know drugs destroys more than, it's just like a virus. You put it there, it crashed the system.
And unfortunately, the amount the child was even sold for 600,000.
So you can imagine.
So it's quite unfortunate. Well, would you hope that we'll get back to the way we used to be, and hope things get better for us. Nuruddin Abdullah, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and we do appreciate your in-depth analysis of the headlines on the front pages of the newspapers.
Thank you very much.
All right.